to have a structured Intune learning, okay, so through this program. So let me share my screen, sorry. Very nice. Okay. So first of all, why Intune? Okay. So clearly, as you can see, this is one of the most dominant product was in the market in last 6 years. Okay. So the way it was started with the mobile device management, specifically focusing on mobiles earlier. Okay. So it was targeted at Windows 8.1. Okay. So that was the starting product where Microsoft acquired from another company, and then it started on rebranding. Okay, so and then recreating the complete different sugar altogether. Okay, so just a second. Okay, and by the time it was 2017 and 18, okay, and this was the market leader. Okay, so this is what you can actually see in the Gartner report. Okay, so I mean, for people who don't know what's Gartner report is a report where most of the companies executives look at on the performance of various products in the market. Okay, so quite like around 2014, 15, 16, 17, all of these years. Okay, so Microsoft was nowhere in the picture. Okay, none of the quadrants. So within like few years, okay, so they completely revamped the product, developed very important features in all the products, and they marketed it like anything. And today it stands as the one of the leader, and almost all of the companies, people whoever are using IBM Master 360 or Manage Engine, Ivanti, or even VMware Workspace ONE or any other competition, okay, any other competitor product, they would eventually are in the migration projects of from this company, I mean, this product to Microsoft. Okay. So if you go and talk to people and work with any other no, I mean, people who are working in this M365, Microsoft 365 space, you can just go and check them, the number of the projects that they have when it comes to migration and the new implementation. Okay, so almost everyone in the world, just like how Exchange Online is the dominant email program, like no 96% is a market share, eventually Intune will be one of the only product. Okay, so it's good, bad, okay, all that I cannot comment. But yeah, so you will actually combined with Microsoft Intune, if you start learning another three products like Entra, and then which is the Azure AD, and then Defender for Endpoint, Defender for Cloud Apps, okay, and then like further products like Defender for Identity, all of these 4, 5 products alone, I can assure you, can fetch you a job for next 20, 25 years. Okay, anytime in the market. Okay, so you will actually be in the demand. I'm not just promoting my course here. Okay, so either ways, people will join. So it's I would ask you to do a thorough research, find out how the job market is when it comes to these 3 or 4 products, and you can make your decision. Okay, so why are we using Intune? Okay, so this was the traditional setup, right? I'm only talking about now the PC management. So if you look at all of the PCs back in the days, were traditionally on-premise Active Directory joined, and because your devices are domain joined, your Windows 10, Windows 11 will get group policies, which are nothing but your security and non-security settings, and System Center Configuration Manager, typically, or any other product, Ivanti or BigFix, any other equivalent product, Manage Engine, or any other product, will manage your laptops. When I say manage, they could probably deploy operating systems and then do a patch management, deploy applications centrally from SCCM, and also do some inventory. Okay, so that is typically called as management of laptops. Okay, so that is what we are learning. So what is Intune? Intune is something more or less the same. We are managing the Windows laptops, Mac laptops, Android, iOS, and even at times a little bit of Linux and Chromebooks. Okay, for today. Okay, so these are the major operating systems Microsoft Intune supports. 90, I mean, predominantly the most important thing is Windows, iOS, Android, and Mac. Okay, in that order. So we'll learn all of those four operating systems, how to onboard, how to enroll, how to do various corporate level enrollments like Autopilot or Apple Business Manager for Apples, and then eventually see how Defender for Endpoint is adding security to those devices. So that would when what you see on the screen is a traditional way of deployment and setting up. Okay. So what actually happens, we have when we say modern, okay, so modern is nothing but the cloud way of deployment. The biggest drawback of that is, okay, so the biggest drawback of this is it needs a corporate network or at least a VPN connection. But initial setup has to be done mostly in the corporate network. Okay, deploying of OS, wipe MC. Basically, you get the laptops, you wipe all of those laptops, add the operating system, drivers, and then join the device to domain. Okay, through multiple ways, either by USB or connecting to the network or using the OSD feature of SCCM. Okay, and eventually do a group policy and then the group policy update and then SCCM agent. All of that was traditional on-prem. Okay, but today what happens in almost all of the companies, okay, even if you go and go back and check within your own companies, at least after COVID, everyone started to move to cloud. Okay, not just applications, but also the device management. So everyone after the COVID, because they saw the impact of COVID. Okay, so with the impact, if they had this setup during that COVID, everyone went home. Okay, so none of these systems were reachable to their laptops. They're offline, right? Your AD is not reachable, so you don't get updated group policies and your SCCM unless you have a cloud management gateway or even a VPN. Okay, so none of these usually work. So 80% of the customers really felt the heat, and that is where they shifted their focus to a more smoother deployment and management of all the updates and policies through a cloud-based, which is always all it needs for a laptop is just an internet connection, right? So if they can onboard the machines to Azure Active Directory, I mean, join the machine to Azure AD, onboard to Intune, and then deploy all the policies to Intune. So that is how what we will be learning. Okay, so that is your traditional IT, and then we are bridging the gap. Okay, so why is Intune important? So there are different ways you look at the industry, right? So almost every company buys licenses, something called as M365 E3 or E5, and if it's a small business company, it is business premium license. Okay, so when you buy that license, which is M365 E3, every company will have it. Okay, at least E3, you'll get all of these products that you see on the screen. Okay, so every company will eventually have to use these products, whether they like it or they don't like it, because they already have the license, right? Unless a very smart company, they know each and everything. Okay, they again end up buying products separately. If they want only Office 365, they'll just buy Office. They just want Azure Basic. Okay, that way it's fine, but people don't do that. People just go ahead and if it's an organization of 10,000 people, for all those 10,000 people, 8,000 people, they'll buy E3, Microsoft 365 E3. For the other 2,000 people, they'll buy E5, which is more advanced license. So that is how they start with. So every product E3 will get all these products and more actually. These are the major products. So Azure is simply a central identity for almost all of the cloud services that Microsoft 365 hosts. So what is Microsoft 365? Okay, for people who are new to this. So Microsoft 365 is nothing but your Office 365 plus your Windows operating system plus your EMS. Okay, EMS is nothing but enterprise mobility and security, uh, which includes Intune, which includes Azure ATP, which is nothing but your Defender, and then some of the security products like cloud apps, and then some other Defender products like identity and thing. And then comes the Windows operating system itself, and then the Office applications and the Office 365. So what is Office 365? You'll have emails, which is Exchange Online, Teams meetings, Teams, Yammer, SharePoint, Word, PowerPoint, and OneDrive. Okay, everything comes under Office 365. So for an office worker, you will have an identity that's part of Azure Active Directory, and you will have emails, Teams, everything, and you will have a Windows operating system, which is not here, but anyways, so Windows operating system, upgrade it to Enterprise if you already have Pro. To manage the device, you have Intune. To protect the device, you have Defender. To protect the cloud applications or any shadow IT or anyone who is trying to upload his emails or attachments to Google Drive or Dropbox, all of that, right? So you will have cloud app security. Okay. So here today, like, we'll in our training course, we'll almost learn these three products. Okay. Azure Active Directory, uh, wherever we need when it comes to Microsoft and Intune, Intune and Defender. So Defender, again, as I said, so we learn 20% of the time that you spend. And then Intune is where we spend most of the time. I will show you the breakup of the topics that I will be covering. It will be around 26 to 28 hours. So I will show the topics. If someone who joins and says like, if everyone agrees that they need additional topics, it's fine. But typically, this is actually covered everything. Okay, so we cover everything. Okay, so this is how it actually looks like. These are the pictures that your architect or your CISO or your CIO looks at. Okay, so they don't really know what the feature does, what the product does, but they're looking at how much of licenses they buy, they invest, and how much of the product's capabilities they are trying to use in the real time in their environment. So as I said, at a broader picture, it's identities, which is nothing but your Azure AD endpoints, where you manage with Intune and Defender for endpoint. So by the way, Microsoft Endpoint Manager is the old name for Intune. Actually, it was Intune first, and then Endpoint Manager, and then later Intune. So, and then, yeah, information protection, Defender for cloud, and all of that. We will see how that all that are integrated. Okay. So this is where I was talking about user driven and from the cloud. Okay. We'll see all of that. Okay. So, okay. So this will be we will actually cover all of this in great detail once we finalize the dates and start the training. But the point I was wanted to try to make is this, okay? So when it comes to device management, okay, so we always use this part, right? So, but even for the personal also is very important. Okay, so after COVID, everyone started using personals for Teams and then emails and everything. But a lot of data leak was also happened during that time. Okay, so we will look at this section, okay, which means for configurations, we use Intune for deploying configurations. The policy is deployed through Intune, which is our MDM product. And the device, in most cases, is joined to Azure AD on a modern environment. But there are scenarios where it is joined to both domain and also AD, which is hybrid AD. So any device which is joined to your on-premise domain controller and registered with AD, Entra ID or Azure AD is called an hybrid. Almost every enterprises has an hybrid setup, and that is the most confusing subject or topic or challenge that usually every company has. Okay, so just give me a second. So let me just pull up another screen. Okay, so these are the plan. Okay, so these are I'm actually talking about these. Hope you guys can see. Okay, so this is approximately okay. So first of all, everyone has a question on the certification part. So the certification is the right now the certification is the one that is currently MD102. Okay, it doesn't really mean everything we cover is covered in MD102 because MD102 what they have done is they've added two to three different products like basically they have added Windows 365 simply because everyone in this world should know what is the cloud PC and Windows 365. Okay, so that is the marketing way of telling your all admins to learn that and to start using it. Okay, so it's a very high revenue generating for Microsoft. So cloud PC or Windows 365 is nothing but you just buy the license, you'll get a PC. That is how it is. We'll talk about that anyways. So plan, okay, so we'll talk about basic licensing and the fundamentals, very important. Okay, and before that, okay, before I even go here, what I'll do is I'll just explain how the entire thing will work out. Okay, so just give me a second. Let me see if you can see my whiteboard. Okay. Hope you guys see my screen here. So what actually very people let me very basic. Okay, so what actually happened, many people gets confused with Azure AD, okay, and or Enter ID. So what happens is back in 2011, okay, even before that, how are our emails? Our emails were all on Exchange server, okay, which is an on-premise solution, right? This is your company's network. Assume that this is your company's network, okay? This is your corp network. So everything was in on-prem. Okay, so even the laptops which are there in office were easily able to access Exchange for emails. If they go home, okay, most probably they'll not be able to access. So what they have done, they have put some server here, like a DMZ, okay, so which relays traffic from here and then here, probably something like Outlook webmail, where you can access an IIS kind of a server and then you'll be able to access email using the traditional webmail. Okay? So it's nothing but still it's in your corporate network. So what Microsoft did around 2011, the first thing they announced is Office 365. Okay. So what was Office 365? Basically, it's nothing but this Exchange server moving to cloud. Okay, this Exchange server directly in the cloud. Not only you, this Exchange server is now a multi-tenant kind of thing. A lot of people actually use that instance. Okay, something I'll put like this. Okay, a lot of people use that instance based on whatever is the engine is the same, but mailboxes, all that, everything was stored differently. So here, if you have your email inbox, but this was integrated with something called as your Active Directory. Okay, right? So your home Active Directory, you join your company, your user gets created. This is your AD. As soon as user gets created, your email inbox, say for example, you use the user, the inbox for that user also gets created. So that is how it was. But in the once they came up with this Exchange Office 365, they need an identity, correct? Because this guy who is sitting at home will first contact here, okay? In order to contact here, it needs authentication. Who are you, right? Since it needs an authentication, they had to come up with an identity and access management solution, which is the Azure AD, the most popular Azure AD. So Azure AD is not your Active Directory in cloud, okay? This is completely different. It's not your domain controller. It's never a domain controller. It's an IAM, which is Identity and Access Management Solution Provider. Okay, all it provided initially when it came first, it was just user authentication. So this user is somewhere here, right? So we need to do something so that the user gets in here. So they built something called as a synchronization service. They put a server here and all of your users here, 1000, 2000, 3000, all of users here started replicating here. Okay, there's all this you, okay, not we. So this guy who is sitting at home, you, is trying to access this exchange online. It asks for authentication. Immediately it redirects here. So, oh, successful authentication. Now he'll get access to emails. So all the communication went here. Why? Because it's not just the username, even the password hash. I mean, passwords also, in simple terms, passwords also synced. There's another way, even if you get authenticated, it will come here and check the password. Okay, don't get confused right now because, yeah, the whole objective is to let you know how even everything started in Microsoft 365 or Office 365. Little bit of history. So this is the core and the golden gem of identity in entire M362. Sorry, M365. Everything revolves under Azure AD, which is nothing but today called as Entra ID. They renamed it because a lot of, for 10 years, people ran this confusion of Active Directory and Azure AD. They thought even that is Active Directory in cloud. Okay, they completely renamed. It is Entra ID now, like Okta, like Ping Identity, all that. Okay, it's an identity and access management solution. So not just with Office 365, they started off with Skype. They started off with Teams, the extended version of SharePoint. Okay, sorry. So this is Teams. Same thing goes with SharePoint, OneDrive, Ammer, or Viva, okay, all that sitting in the M365 cloud is completely, all this works only if your user is present here in Azure AD, not here, okay? Why? Because this user should be licensed. Unless he is licensed for Exchange Online, he'll not be getting a email inbox. He'll not be able to use TM services. He'll not be able to use SharePoint services. He'll not be able to any Office 365 services. And also Intune. And also Defender for Endpoint. And also Defender for Cloud Apps. This is M's Cloud Apps. This is Intune. And also MDE, which is Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. This is Cloud Apps. This is Intune. Okay. Everything is now revolving around whether you are licensed here or not. So if this user is licensed for M365 E3 or E5, say, E5 has so many products. E5 has Azure AD, E5 has Exchange, E5 has Teams, E5 has Intune, E5 has MDE, E5 has MTCA, almost everything in the world, M365, mostly 90%, is covered. So if this guy, you, is licensed with M365 E5, he'll be able to use all of the services. Okay, everything from his device or anywhere. Okay, so that is the central point. Okay, so the Entra ID is your identity and access management solution where every user who is using the entire M365 services should be licensed there, not here. Okay, so it has no connection to your corporate network at all. The only connection it has is to simply synchronize users and and in recent times devices from here to here. So that is your thing. Okay, so if this device traditionally, like this is the old device, right? So if this old device, which is now connecting to all this exchange, assume that this is now joined to Active Directory here, DC. At the same time, it is also registered here or joined to Azure AD. Now this device becomes a hybrid AD join. Now this device, say for example, they're still managing with an SCCM server. Okay, great. They can continue to manage with SCCM server. But if this same device also is enrolled to Intune, now this device becomes a co-managed device. So you can identify the difference. Hybrid is how the device is joined to your domain and AD. Co-managed is whether the device is managed only by SCCM or both. Okay, so if it's both, it's co-managed. If it's Intune, it's just Intune managed. If it's SCCM, it's just SCCM managed. It has no connection between these two. Okay, you have all the probabilities. Your device can be sitting in home, okay, in a work group, can still be managed by Intune and also SCCM, okay, and it is still co-managed. Your device need not be joined to Active Directory or Azure AD for it to be managed by Intune and SCCM, okay, because all this needs is Intune enrollment. All this needs is install a client, SCCM client, and put the IPs out of your SCCM server, right? That's all it needs. Install a client, point the client to your SCCM server, it starts managing. Enroll the device to Intune, it starts managing. So this becomes a co-manage. It has nothing to do with your Exchange. Okay, I mean, what I'm saying is both are different. Okay, so both are different. Maybe in ideal world, it may not work in a production environment, but both are completely different. So with that background, so what I'll do is I will share, I mean, this is how things pan out in a company, okay? I don't know what you guys can see. Let me share it again. Okay. So if you work in a modern enterprise today, so you will see these things common, okay? This is something like Intune product family. So if you look at Intune, this is the Intune service setting in the cloud. And we have endpoints here, right? Windows, Mac, Android, iOS, Linux, all of these are MDM managed device. And we have Defender managed devices as well. So these two are very, very, very important, which we will learn. Okay. So we can deploy and manage apps either through multiple app stores like Microsoft Store, Google or App Store. Okay. But if you actually look at it, the ultimate endpoint connection is stays with Entra ID. Okay. And that is where even the conditional access sits. Okay. So don't get confused there. So I'll just share the topics that we will probably be covering. Okay. So this is, yeah, as I was saying, this is a certification. Okay. So 90% is what this is covered. So what I'm covering here is like, for first week, we'll talk about the planning, licensing requirements, again, more fundamentals of Entra ID, and then I'll tell you before this training, it's not about the product, okay? If someone gives you access to the product, they'll start seeing the product and start learning. It's like, no, using Facebook. Did anyone train Facebook, Instagram? No, right? So it's not about using the product. It's always about why are we using the product is more important, okay? So that is always lies. If you start working, how do you manage a company owned device? How do you manage a personal owned device? How do you manage, how do you fix a solution? Okay. How do you even resolve a challenge? So all those are important. Okay. So fundamentally, IT skills are important in a different way, not the usage of the product. Everyone can use the product if they sit for 3 weeks or 2 weeks in front of console, right? So we are not interested in that. We are interested in morely, like, if I have a challenge in a real world where, like, I have 10,000 hybrid AD joint machines, 8,000 only Azure AD joint machines, they're not able to track. How can we deploy? Okay, so how do we standardize? So how can we pull a report and fetch, fix the issues like conditional access, the compliance reports? What are the compliance policies? Okay, so if we have a strategy where, like, some of the European countries have a GDPR, I mean GDPR privacy rules. So how do we control settings? What are the MAM policies, the mobile application management policies specific to Europe, specific to US? So, or even the standard baselines. Okay, so these are the real skills that we need to attain as an experienced people. Okay, so I mean, very important is challenges like these. Okay, so no, everyone, you guys need to understand how do we come across situations like that. So we'll see how we can use Intune portals. Hope people know how to set up labs. So if not, uh, we will start from scratch, as you can see, right? So maybe for experienced people, this may be basic for first 2 weeks, but we will start from scratch. Okay, so which means that we will set up the lab. We'll show you how to subscribe for a 1 month or a extended period of 45 days subscription for Intune, and then we'll start talking about the real world problems about enrollment. How in a company, no one sits and enrolls the device manually, right? So everyone should be automatic. So either through group policy, if they have already old devices, which are hybrid AD joined, or through autopilot, which is the popular way of rolling out devices. Again, we have two versions of autopilot, the older one and the newer one, based on the older one being the OEM dependency, and the second one, we really don't have any kind of dependency with any of the OEM providers. So we'll see how co-management is set up. How do we talk about, I mean, how do you see about the workloads? What's the best practices on that? So yeah, we'll see iOS and macOS enrollment, Apple Business Manager. So these are all enrollment and initial things. The more importantly, how do we deploy policies? How do we set up conditional access? Okay, the driver updates, auto patch. What is auto patch? Well, we will not set up auto patch. Okay, so but we will talk about update policies, and the more advanced seamless updates is nothing but extension of updates is auto patch. So similarly, the most important is the Intune MAM. Every company in the world already has Intune MAM. So they cannot survive without Intune MAM, right? So without Intune MAM, what happens? You can download your attachments from your mobile phones to your WhatsApp, right? So you can take screenshots. You can upload it to OneDrive, Google Drive, your personal Dropbox, all of that you can actually do. Your company data. So that is not allowed, right? So most companies will eventually complete the MAM part. So there are people are working, people don't know, people are confused. So we will clear the confusion, okay, on Intune MAM. So the most important questions lie in the interview. If you want to prove that you are an experienced, you should understand what is Entra ID, what is Intune Windows Autopilot, pre-provisioning, Apple Business Manager, conditional access, the MAM and Defender for Endpoint. So at a broad level, okay, I'm talking very, very broad level. So if they ask questions on these, yeah, it's good. Okay, so you are going to the future. If they start asking questions on how do you patch management, how do you do troubleshoot patch, how do you package an application, okay, then don't join the company. Okay, that's all I can suggest at this point because you are going backwards. Uh, Anyways, so we'll talk about have a complete week or about 4 to 6 hours of just the security concepts and Defender for Endpoint. We'll see how not everyone gets a license for P2. Okay, there is something called P1 and P2, Plan 1, Plan 2 for Defender for Endpoint. So you might get Plan 1 as a trial free license, but Plan 2 it depends. You'll only get once in your for your one credit card. You won't keep getting the repeated thing. Okay. So yeah. So once we finish all this 25, 26 hours, the most important thing, I mean, with my almost 20 batches, everyone likes this because they come back with the positive feedback on that because I can tell about myself. I have just 13 to 14 years of experience. This is my eighth company. Okay, so moving jobs, finding jobs, shifting from one company to another company. Okay, so the longest I've been in any company is 2.5 years. Okay, so you can trust me on changing jobs, finding and being happier. Okay, so I will guide you, all the people who want to find out. Um, I mean, how I mean, basically shape the career. Okay, wherever you are, you can talk to me. Okay, so if you feel if you are uh, moving your career ahead with something like M365, as I told you, right? People who have benefited with my 6 years of training experience are the people who come from the packaging background, who come from SCCM, who come from Windows administration, who come from help desk, and who come from security, who come from the M365 Exchange, OneDrive, Teams setup. Okay, anything related to end user uh, devices and also security on the devices and the emails and the Teams part. Because when it comes to Teams administrators are confused on how to set up Teams phones, Teams TVs, right? All that. Okay, so uh, they love this course. Okay, so that's all I can say. uh we'll see how it goes once we start next week. So people, they can contact this number, but let me put that number in the chat. People who are interested in enrolling this course, right? So they can put the chat. I'll just go ahead and read out the questions on the chat. Okay. So what is the structured learning for Intune? I'm new to this technology. If you're completely new and people who have more than 7 to 8 years of experience on a different technology, I would suggest don't simply shift, don't come. Okay, as I told, people who are in packaging SCCM mainly, okay, but don't have Intune experience. People who have already working little bit on Intune and they want to be an L2 level experience with, they get packages, increase their salaries like around 18 lakhs, 20, 16. People who have 2, 3, 4, 5 experience. Okay, I don't want anyone who comes with 15 years experience with SCCM and have already L2 experience. Okay, this is purely not L3. Okay, this is purely L1 and L2 till a certain extent. L3, I think we are starting next week. I'll show you L3 topics if someone really is interested. Let me share my screen. Okay, so usually I cover all of these in L3. A more detailed security architecture. I talk about again the same thing, but people who directly join here. will not have heard of this, right? So we talk about detailed troubleshooting of different autopilot models, your white globe pre-provisioning, co-managed hybrid environments, detailed large-scale deployments, uh, and then troubleshooting enrollments in detail of all this various different policies, right? ADMX injections, group policy, migrations, analytics. We have different license for remote help, desktop analytics, your endpoint privilege manager, people something similar to CyberArk. This is Cloud Labs, the Hello application management, certificates. Talk about VPN, PKI, SCAP, okay, all of that. This again will go on in depth. I have seen classes hours going on to 34 hours, 33 hours. Okay, so I'll have to be careful in arranging that. So that is a number people can choose. Um, so let me go ahead and read some more questions. So structured learning for Intune is uh, okay. Azure AD and then Intune. Okay, so that is how it is. So I'm in travel. Will we be getting access to the recordings later on? Yes, the recordings will be with you for throughout your lifetime. How Intune will help for multiple applications like lock policies, for example, snipping to print screen, MS Paint disable. Single sign-on, multiple users should not log in, computer login, level restrict. This is most important for me. Login, laptop, single login. Must need. Okay. So how are you blocking single logins today? Okay. So I think people can answer that. Okay. So there's how can we lock a laptop by not logging in if they are connecting to a domain controller? You're free to log in, right? So or you have to use the same group policy. If you have a restricted number of users who can log in, use the user level restriction in the same group policy to Intune here. Okay. So will we be getting access? Yeah. So what subtopics are covered with respect to Defender for endpoint? Okay. So there's a subtopics here. So what is Defender for endpoint? So we talk about um, basically we'll do all of the simulations and we'll talk about alerts, incidents, the Defender for portal operations, and then different kinds of policies like web content filtering. We have something called as IP URL restrictions, all of that, okay, all the configurations and deployments from there. How will we get trial subscription? It's only available in USC credit cards. No, I think it's available everywhere throughout the world. They can subscribe for a 1 month period and then extend for another 60 days or 30 days, I think. Okay, Intune supports for Mac devices. Need more help and interactions and training. It does support Mac devices, so it does too, but we are not covering a Mac in great detail. Okay, so if I start Mac, it will take 10 hours, right? So the important thing is Mac capabilities and Mac enrollments, the platform SSO part, what is it, and then the policies. See, this is how it works. If you know how to manage one or two operating systems, you can actually manage all the rest of it. If you know iOS, Mac is almost 80% the same. The only difference is little bit of packages and shell scripting. Okay, again, that depends on existing Mac admins. Okay, so the way today, be it JAMF or Mac OS, I mean Intune, we just deploy MDM uh, policies, right? The rest, everything is shell scripts. They are available in the Mac community. So if we need anything, like I want to deploy, I want to uninstall or remove packages of all the default iOS applications that are come with the sorry, macOS applications that come with the factory like Garage, all that, right? So it's a script that can be removed, right? They're all readily available. So 80, and then the rest 80% is all MDM policies. So I mean the macOS policies. Is this weekend training? No, I think probably will start next week. Can you share this recorded video link? Yeah, that will be shared in the YouTube and also probably in the, you can ask the coordinator, Amit. So it's covered labs concept. Yes, we are covering labs concept, doing demo, testing everything. So one question from my end, how to fix the client machine is co-managed from Intune. What is this? How to fix if the client machine is co-managed from Intune. From Intune, you cannot fix what? I don't know. I didn't understand the question. So if the machine is co-managed from Intune, whatever you deploy from Intune, you can see the success or failures of those policies. And the maximum thing that you can do is you can collect the log diagnostic packages from the console on that machine and download it from the console. You don't have to talk to the end user. But if something, there's no connection or something breaks, you need to go to the end user machine and start to troubleshoot. So I don't work in any specific technology. I want to switch. Yes, you can absolutely do that. As I told you, focus one product by one product. So if you start from Intune, so Enter ID and Intune will be in your resume, followed by Defender for Endpoint after 1 year, followed by L2 or L3 experience of same Intune and Defender Endpoint and Azure AD. So these three products. So by the time with 4 or 5 years experience, you will start adding another product. So anyone in their lifetime can only learn 5 or 6 products. Okay. And only a person who can learn 5 or 6 products in 15 years is called an expert. Okay. You can't learn every product 1 year and keep changing. Okay. So that is even a secret hiring skill. Okay. So if you have worked on something, you cannot say I have worked on Intune for 10 years. Then you did a boring job, right? So these are all the things that you need to think. Okay? And also I've seen a lot of people putting after this training, they started to go and put 5 years, 4 years experience. So imagine a 4 years, 5 years experience should speak more confidently and they know the product very well. No matter how much you know, whether you worked, you don't work, you always put lesser experience on a product. That is hack, right? So if I talk to a person who says, even though he has worked 5 years, but he says he just has 3 years experience, and I interview him, so he gives me more information, but my perspective is always, wow, a 3 years old guy is giving me so much information. He is answering all the questions. The other guy who just worked 3 or 4 years and he says 10 years, I'll have a different perspective, right? So the key is to put less experience. That is where I think, wow, he learned so many things in less than 2 years, and given an opportunity, he will excel, right? So that is one of the things. So where was I? I'm working in Windows Virtual Desktop in my company, and we use Intune for Cloud PC. Provisioning is good for me to learn Intune from scratch for my career as I'm looking to switch my. Absolutely, yes. See, all these are very good technologies. I think you are in the best position. AVD is very hot market. Windows 365 is a hot market, and I can tell you, everyone who manages AVD and Windows 365, those devices are managed by Intune, right? In fact, Intune console already has a Windows 365 UI. Okay, so if you want to manage Windows 365, it's only through Intune console. So all every Intune policies can be managed through those cloud PCs. Dun, 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 dun. Single sign-on through single sign-on through AD by hybrid, but more time to take effective. I didn't understand the question. Please see my question. What is your question? Okay. I work on SSL certificate management, have experience in Windows and Azure. Is it useful for me? I don't understand what is SSL certificate management. Maybe you're in the PKI team, ADCS. Okay, have experience in Windows. Is it useful for me? I don't know. Okay, so when you say SSL certificate management, if you're an ADCS team, which is nothing but your AD or PKI or your third party managing and deploying and renewing certificates or creating certificates. I don't know. Okay, so if you don't like the job and you can learn AD more, you can learn Entra ID more, and then also Intune. Okay, so you can combine everything. But if you're doing an operational job daily without learning the skill or a technology, yeah, you can actually join. I have 13 years of experience with IT desktop software management support. I want to switch. Is that possible? Switch where? I don't know. So when you say desktop and software management support, yes, you can do that. Okay. If you don't know Intune, so you should know Intune. That is a minimum expectation. Okay. So if you're an IT desktop and software management support, since you're set support, you should know. Yeah, you are absolutely fit for this learning. What about desktop level technical support knowledge with 5 years experience? You also can join. It's actually everything. When I say you also can join, it means that you will understand is what's my take on that. Okay, I'm not. If someone comes and says I have experience in DevOps, should I join? Okay, so I will say no. Okay, so yes, Sridhar, you will get it easily. So I am working in Windows Virtual Desktop Support team in my company, and we use Intune for Cloud PC. Yes, I already answered this. Is this interaction session? I don't think this is an interactive session, but once we officially start the training from next week, it'll be an interactive session. So we'll go ahead and unmute. Okay. So how to communicate with client machine to Intune? Through a remote client software like a remote help, or if you have a third party softwares like Teamweaver. So Intune, just a $2 license additional to Intune will give you a remote help option in Intune. Okay, so you can go to the machine and click on. So how to communicate? Okay, your ping identity on Doctor. Can someone build career around those tools, or they are not vast? I okay. So Okta, ping identity, everything falls under IAM, Identity and Access Management. There are two ways to look at it. Do you want to be a ping or an Okta administrator? Which means that you know how to use the tool. Okay. But those ping identity and Okta or Entra ID or any other identity manager falls under a technology or a domain called as Identity and Access Management Solution. When that is in picture, you look at a broader scale. What is identity? Why will an organization need? How do you secure identity? Because when IAM is a very unique skill, very risky job. Okay, when I say risky, it's a uh, I mean the stakes are at high, right? So you just cannot give access to everyone to the server. What if you're in a bank, right? So everything should be privileged. You need to build up a lot of processes. It's not just giving username and password. It's about setting the right permissions to everything, a banking application, a web firewall, a server, and everything is security. Identity is nothing but providing access to IT, software, and both hardware and servers, everything. So you will be the leader there. That's how you shape the career. It's not learning the tool. Tool is just first 6, 10 years, not more than that. You can't keep on using the tool in India for a long time. You can't say I have 40 years of 45 years, 50 years of age. I am a Okta administrator. I have Okta certifications. Okay, so it's not that. Okay, tools come second. Technology goes first. As you improve your age, as your age grows, if it's say, for example, easier understanding is security. When you say security, yeah, even if you learn 10 tools, it's great, but the knowledge, the process, the thing that you get out of those 10 years and 10 tools is important. So that is the architect level I'm talking about. So Okta or the career is, yeah, you can build. I mean, I'm not saying that you cannot. So if you learn 3 or 4 tools, you'll become an IAM administrator. Not bad. So any help with resume building? Sure. Uh, I think I'll do that. I'll help a lot and everyone likes it. Okay, so you can take that. Okay, simple tips. Yeah, it should not be more than page or half, 1.5 a page. All the important topics should be there. Every resume should be customized to every company. It should not be a general resumes, no photos, no addresses, no phone numbers on the resume. Simple, because 85-90% of the people don't read your resumes, pages of resumes. Okay, they only look at the last 2 companies, what headings you have written. If they fit, they'll talk to you. And when after talking to you, they'll decide. They'll not look at your resumes and decide, right? So they look at the resumes in few seconds, not even minutes. Within few seconds, they'll have a glance and say select, reject, shortlist, shortlist. Then they'll call for an interview. Because I take a lot of interviews, I don't um, read the resumes at all. Okay, so that is the thing. No one talks. So what should be the skill set? Cloud PC, AVD, Intune is good for career and good package. Yes, AVD, Intune, Cloud PC is Azure AD, Defender 5.5 alone. Don't have to do anything else in your life. Okay, because when I say those 5 tools, it has to be everyday learning. You cannot simply sit after learning. Okay. I have 7 years of experience in working in Azure Cloud App Support. I don't know what exactly is that. In fact, throughout my career, I have worked on support roles. I'm planning to switch to Intune Admin. I need to learn from Intune. Yes, Prashant. I am working. See, Prashant, you can join. I mean, it's your decision. So when you say you have 7 years experience, uh, you have to revamp your, I mean, do your resume. Okay, so after learning and after feeling that you are in tune ready, you can say build and connect Intune to your Azure. Okay, so that is connecting is what we can discuss each and every one. So I'm working on I'll talk to you later. I mean, so Karthik M. So I'm working on M365 admin exchange online email gateway migration. Yes, it's useful, Karthik. So this course will cover autopilot. Yes. What more advanced cover the L3, L4 do you provide? The It depends on people. Okay. So I remove topics based on the importance. Some needs Graph API. I started off with Graph API, for example, but later you know that a lot of things change in the backend and Graph API, the queries that you build breaks. So I eventually decided not to cover and break head on Graph API. So likewise, what is important today when it comes to L3, L4 is the topics that I showed. Okay, that keeps changing. So it depends. Okay, so someone can come and ask you. See, the way L3, L4 works is since most people already have 3 to 7 or 8 years experience, it would be a normal conversational. Okay, so sometimes the whole entire day becomes their problem, their company facing issue. So there's nothing like while I cover and finish all the topics. Okay, so but it's just a general a knowledgeable group who joins, who discusses. It's like more like a podcast kind of thing. Is E5 licenses? Yes, E5 has Intune. I am from SCCM background. This course will cover the policies implementation and Intune like ADGPO. Yes, that's that's one of the main agenda. Will you cover MS Purview? No. Purview not, because there is another training that I conduct, which is M365 security. That is where I cover purview classifications, data, all of that. It's been 7 months. I did not cover Purview because I don't have time. So I only covered Intune. So security, I'll also show you what I cover in security once I finish answering your questions, guys. We recently migrated from SCCM to Intune, and most of the client machines moved to Intune, but they are co-managed. How to fix this? So we recently migrated from SCCM to Intune. So if you have migrated from SCCM to Intune, and most of the client machines are moved to Intune, but they are so co-managed. So if they are co-managed, then you did the wrong movement, right? You cannot migrate. There is nothing like migration from SCCM to Intune. Okay, nothing. It has to be only co-managed, SCCM to co-managed, and co-managed to nothing. That is their last state. If you want that machine from co-managed to Intune, it has to be wiped completely in a proper way. Okay, so you can do skills, multiple skills, and do it, but I would don't suggest to do that. Okay, so what do you say? You can remove the SCCM client. You can run the script to run the remove all the SCCM clients. As soon as you remove the SCCM clients, it'll go away from the co-managed. Okay, you can run the uninstallation package of the SCCM client on the machine from Intune. Okay, that is the way you remove the SCCM client. When you remove the SCCM client, the machine stays as Intune managed. So you need to identify how SCCM client went in that place first. Okay. So we decommission system server, then how is it co-managed? Just because you installed SCCM client? So how did SCCM client install? Mainly, okay, so what happens is a lot of people do a hybrid AD join. During that hybrid AD join, they also do a click on SCCM co-managed and they deploy the client. The client gets installed from the cloud, but there is no reaching server. Okay, so this you need to properly understand how the deployment even started, how the setup is done, how the device is even enrolled. Okay, sure. You guys have a nice days. We'll see. I think I already shared the number, so I'll just read out the number just for please contact Amit. His number is 9540 662 806. Okay, so it's India code. It's +91 9540 662 806. Okay, thank you guys. Okay, so you have a nice day. So see you all next week, whoever joins.